Welcome to the Academic Framework, Module 5. Our topic for today is oral language for ELLs and for all. But where does this fit in our ELL framework for academic literacy? Let's take a look at our house graphic and find out. The foundational piece is always getting to know our students, their home language, their prior schooling, their experiences. And we build on that with background knowledge and vocabulary instruction. Oral language is also very important as a foundational piece. Then we have our pillars: register, grammar, and genre. And finally, no house is complete without a roof: assessment. What is oral language? Well, the obvious answer is that it's speaking and listening. But we can also think of it as a system through which we use spoken words to express meaning, knowledge, ideas, opinions, and feelings. This communication system is comprised of phonology, morphology, syntax, vocabulary, and pragmatics. Let's take a look first at phonology. Phonology is the awareness of sounds, syllables, and rhymes. So this comes alive in classrooms when we chant, or read Dr. Seuss, or play with initial sounds like B. B says B, 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 B. Balloon, balloon. B says B. The second part of this communication system is morphology. Morphology deals with the meaning of word forms and parts. This can come alive in our classrooms when we're playing with prefixes and suffixes, with Greek and Latin roots. We can do word and picture sorts with our students, but let's do them in pairs so they have a chance to say the words orally first before sorting them. The third part of our communication system is syntax. Syntax deals with word order and grammar rules. And so if we have a look at the sentence at the bottom of the slide, we can see that the word order goes subject, verb, and object, subject being trees, verb being lined, and object being mountain road. We can also talk about the word order of adjectives in this sentence. For instance, why is it the beautiful green trees rather than the green beautiful trees? And we can look at some of the grammar in the sentence. Notice that the word trees has an S at the end of it to indicate the plural. The next part in our oral communication system is vocabulary. It is so important for our students to understand words and phrases in their home language and in English. And so in our classrooms, we can focus on Tier 2 vocabulary. A lot of this work we can do in partners or a whole class orally together. We can have students repeat the words after us. We can have them define, translate, draw, or use in a sentence. And once they know these words, we can play vocabulary games with them. There's the infamous fly swatter game, where the teacher has some of the words displayed on the board. We'll give the description or definition of the word, and the student has to swat at the correct word on the board. Or there's the pass the parcel game, where students pass around a parcel, and when they pull out a paper from the parcel, they have to use the word in a sentence or say the definition of the word out loud. See our vocabulary video for more ideas around this. The final part of oral communication system is pragmatics, the social rules of communication. This includes things like turn-taking and interrupting. Some of these paralinguals are essential to explicitly teach our ELLs, as their behavior might be perceived as rude, when in fact, it might be cultural. For instance, in some cultures, it is okay to interrupt or to talk over someone. In many cultures, giving eye contact to your teacher is considered disrespectful. These are all norms that vary according to culture, and so we can teach our students polite ways to interject or disagree, interrupt, or to give eye contact or not, using role plays and sentence stems. Why is oral language so important? Oral language is closely linked to learning and thinking. That is, speaking and listening to learn. It also helps to build capacity in reading and writing. Oral language is essential for language learning. But how do we teach oral language? Well, oral language always comes first, before reading and writing. We also need to give our students extensive opportunities to practice each and every class. Don't underestimate the power of peer learning. It is one of the most powerful ways that our students can learn. Our groups can be chosen carefully so that perhaps we have a beginner with an intermediate or same language speakers in the same group, along with a native English speaker. And don't forget, structured activities will encourage participation. And so our next slides will be looking at how to encourage student participation. Some of our learners, including our English language learners, might be reluctant to participate in class discussions. And so let's look at some helpful hints to encourage oral participation in class. The first one is called the QSSA script. Now, this is a classroom routine that you might want to try to establish early on in your classroom that allows students processing time. Take a moment and have a look at the steps on the slide. Notice that there are also some helpful visuals if you wanted to post it up in your classroom. Another way we can encourage oral participation is through the use of home language. There was a time when many English language learning teachers would say, "English only, please." But we now know that the use of home language can be used for many different reasons. The first reason it can be used for is to develop comprehensible input. In other words, the students must be able to understand the information that's coming into them. It can help them to build context, understand vocabulary, and we can also have them reading texts in their home language. Another reason why we might use home language is to foster social interactions. In this way, the student can work in groups, work collaboratively, communicate with others, and think metacognitively. A third way we can use home language is to express ideas, either written or through speech, and learning grammar. If you'd like to learn more about this, check out TAN's website, Empowering ELLs. Sentence frames are another way to encourage oral participation. Let's take, for instance, the question, "How are you?" Oftentimes, our English language learners will respond with "good, good," or "fine," or "not good." But we know that there are so many other nuances of emotions. And so we can do some vocabulary work with them around the nuances. And then we can use sentence frames to support growth. Have a look at this example by Dorina Sackman. The answer to the question, "How are you?" We can acknowledge the negative. I am feeling blank about blank because blank. However, so an example of this would be, I am feeling sad about COVID because many people have died. However, I am doing what I can to stay safe. We can shift our thinking through the use of sentence frames. We can also honor the positive. How are you? I'm feeling great about the sunshine because that means I can spend more time at home. What a wonderful way to help our students frame their thinking and their oral language. Here are some examples of some sentence frames that support academic learning. We can support some of the pragmatics of oral language, for instance, disagreeing respectfully or providing evidence. Now, we will see that in social studies, science, numeracy, and literacy. So we can provide them sentence frames that will help them frame their oral language. Tip number 4 for encouraging oral participation is around correcting ELLs. Imagine you were learning a new language and your teacher corrected you every time you made an error. This could be very frustrating. And so when we're correcting our ELLs, we need to be careful around which techniques we use. One trusted technique is called elicitation. Elicitation is oral corrective feedback that clearly communicates that an error has been made. It helps students locate the error and usually leads to an attempt to repair. Here's how elicitation works. The teacher repeats the student's utterance up to the point where the error was made, and then stops to give the student time to think and respond. Here are some examples. If our target is the plural of the word shoe, and our student says shoeses, the teacher would say shoe, and hopefully the student would reply shoes. Let's say our target is the appropriateness of words. The teacher might say, "Where is it?" And the student might respond, "In the chicken." The teacher would respond then, "Where?" or ask for clarification. The student would say, "In the chicken." The teacher would then elicit, "In the," and wait for the student to reply, "In the kitchen." Elicitation, as other corrective tools, should not be overused. Think of it this way. Let's correct the errors that cause miscommunication and not correct the others. Tip number 5 is an essential scaffold for encouraging participation, and that is building vocabulary. Since word choice is critical, we use academic words that have high leverage, that is, Tier 2 words. How? Well, we might say the word in our home language, repeat it in English, make sentences using the word, or play 20 questions to guess the word. Remember, Tier 2 vocabulary is academic words that occur across subject areas. Now you try. We have discussed 5 tips to encourage oral participation. And so we have a question for reflection. What might be some ways I can tweak my instructional practice to include ELL-friendly oral language activities? Consider peer groupings and one new idea that you can try. And don't forget to play some games. Want to learn more? Visit our YouTube channel, English Language Learners, hooray! And click on subscribe so you know when we've added new videos. Have fun playing with oral language.